The Ed Sullivan Theater buzzed with anticipation, its iconic stage set aglow under the warm lights of the late show. The audience, a vibrant mix of New York locals and tourists, chattered excitedly, many clutching tickets they'd secured months in advance. Tonight's guest was none other than Will Smith, Hollywood's ever-charismatic leading man, there to promote his latest film. The house band riffed through their upbeat intro, and production assistants darted through the wings, ensuring every detail was perfect. But behind the scenes, an undercurrent of tension simmered, unnoticed by the crowd. In the green room, Will Smith adjusted his tie in the mirror, his easy smile reflecting years of navigating high-stakes appearances with charm. "I'd like a quick word with Steven before we start," he said politely to a production assistant. The assistant hesitated, exchanging a glance with Smith's publicist. "Steven's in final prep," the producer interjected, her tone clipped. "He asked for no interruptions before showtime." Smith nodded, unfazed, unaware that the host, Stephen Colbert, had issued strict instructions to keep him at arm's length. Colbert, in his office earlier that day, had paced restlessly, his sharp wit now a weapon he intended to wield. "We need ratings," he'd told his writing team, his voice firm. "Conflict sells. Smith thinks he's here to plug his movie, but I want raw, unscripted emotion tonight." His team had compiled a dossier, not of typical interview notes, but of pointed questions and controversial topics designed to rattle their guest. Colbert's eyes gleamed with the prospect of a viral moment. As the show kicked off, Colbert delivered his monologue with his usual flair, but there was a glint in his eye, a hint of something predatory. "Tonight, we've got Will Smith," he announced, his smile tight. "Let's see if he keeps his hands to himself this time." The audience laughed, but the quip landed awkwardly, a murmur rippling through the crowd. Was it a joke, or something more biting? When Smith strode onto the stage, the room erupted in applause. His grin was infectious, his wave to the crowd pure Hollywood charisma. He pulled Colbert into a half-hug, which the host barely returned, his handshake stiff. "Will Smith, everybody," Colbert said, his voice flat as he gestured to the guest chair, avoiding eye contact. "Man, it's great to be here," Smith began, leaning forward with enthusiasm. "The energy in this room is electric." "Is it?" Colbert cut in, shuffling his note cards with a dismissive air. "Let's talk about your new project. Some are calling it a desperate attempt to reclaim relevance. Thoughts?" The audience fell silent. Smith's smile flickered, but he recovered quickly. "I wouldn't put it that way," he said, his tone measured. "This film's some of my most challenging work. I'm proud of what we've created." "Challenging work," Colbert echoed, making air quotes. "Critics say it's just another formulaic blockbuster banking on nostalgia. Nothing new." Smith shifted in his seat, his discomfort subtle but visible. "If you watch the film, you'll see we took real creative risks. The director pushed us to." "Speaking of risks," Colbert interrupted, leaning forward with a sudden intensity, "let's talk about your history of unpredictable behavior. Your public image has been quite the roller coaster, hasn't it?" Offstage, Smith's publicist reached for her phone, alarm flashing across her face. This was not the light-hearted promotional interview they'd been promised. The camera lingered on Smith, whose eyes narrowed slightly. "Steven," he said, his voice low but steady, "I came here to talk about a film I've poured my heart into. I'm happy to discuss my career and life honestly, but this feels like an agenda that wasn't shared with me." Colbert's smile turned icy. "An agenda? This is late-night TV, Will. We ask the questions people want answered. Isn't that why you're here? To face the public?" The audience shifted uncomfortably, the excitement of the evening curdling into tension. Smith maintained his composure. "I'm here to connect with fans and share something I'm passionate about," he said. "If you've got specific questions, I'm happy to answer, but this tone feels unnecessarily antagonistic." Colbert chuckled, the sound devoid of warmth. "Antagonistic? I'm just doing my job. Maybe you're not used to interviews where you don't control the narrative." Smith took a deep breath, a fleeting look of hurt crossing his face before his professional mask snapped back into place. "Let me try a different angle," he offered, ever the diplomat. This film's about redemption, second chances, universal themes. We've all faced challenges, made mistakes. Fascinating pivot, Colbert said, his sarcasm cutting. But let's be real. This appearance isn't about some noble artistic mission. It's about image rehabilitation, right? A carefully orchestrated PR move. The audience gasped softly. The first commercial break arrived like a lifeline. As the red light on the camera blinked off, Smith turned to his publicist, who rushed on stage. Heated whispers erupted between Smith's team and the show's producers, though the microphones were muted. Audience members craned their necks, sensing the drama unfolding. Some later reported seeing Colbert's executive producer in frantic damage control, while Smith's security detail edged closer to the stage. When the show resumed, the atmosphere had shifted palpably. Smith sat back in his chair, his expression composed but guarded. Colbert, meanwhile, seemed almost energized by the tension, adjusting his glasses with a smirk. "Welcome back," he said, barely glancing at Smith. "We're here with Will Smith, who was just explaining his latest career choices." "Actually, Stephen," Smith interjected, his voice calm but firm, "during the break, I raised concerns about the direction of this interview. Your audience deserves authenticity, but there's a difference between tough questions and a predetermined narrative." Colbert's eyebrows shot up in mock surprise. Predetermined narrative? That's a bold accusation from someone whose career is built on carefully crafted personas. A few audience members gasped audibly. The jab was personal, cutting deeper than late-night banter typically allowed. "I've always been genuine with my fans," Smith replied, an undercurrent of frustration breaking through. "I've owned my mistakes publicly. That takes real vulnerability, not the kind manufactured for ratings." The subtle counterpunch landed. For a moment, Colbert seemed caught off guard, a flicker of annoyance crossing his face before he regained control. "Vulnerability's your brand these days," he retorted. "Let's talk about your new director. Sources say you created a toxic environment on set with constant disagreements." Smith leaned forward, his gaze steady. "I'd be curious to know who those sources are, Stephen, because that's completely false. Our set was collaborative, respectful, anyone actually involved would confirm that." "So you're calling my research team liars?" Colbert pressed, his voice rising. "I'm suggesting," Smith said carefully, "that your team might have received misinformation. Creative discussions get misinterpreted when filtered through multiple channels." A production assistant whispered urgently to the executive producer off stage, the staff visibly rattled by the escalating confrontation. Smith extended an olive branch. "Let's try this differently," he said. "I value honest conversation. If you've got specific concerns, I'm happy to address them directly, no insinuations needed." Colbert hesitated, briefly disarmed by Smith's reasonableness, but quickly pivoted. "Fine, let's be direct. Many viewers wonder if your recent talk of personal growth is genuine or just calculated image repair. Care to address that?" Smith nodded, unfazed. "I appreciate the directness. Personal growth isn't linear. It's messy, and when you're in my position, it happens in public. I've made mistakes, big ones, and faced consequences. That's real accountability, not a PR stunt." The audience nodded, some visibly moved by Smith's candor. For a moment, it seemed the interview might find its footing. But Colbert wasn't done. "That sounds rehearsed," he said dismissively. "Did your PR team write that for you?" The crowd's murmurs grew louder, the band leader exchanging uneasy glances with his musicians. "Nothing about my journey is rehearsed," Smith said, his voice taking on a new edge. "Frankly, Stephen, I'm disappointed. You seem determined to block any real conversation tonight." "Real conversation requires real participants," Colbert snapped, his professional veneer slipping. "Not celebrities who only want softball questions." Smith shook his head, his composure fraying but intact. "I've never asked for special treatment. I expect basic respect, the same I'd give anyone I'm speaking with." "Respect is earned," Colbert said coldly, the room's temperature seeming to plummet. "I've spent decades earning respect," Smith replied, his voice quiet but intense. "Not through perfection, but through perseverance and owning my mistakes." "I'm curious, Stephen, what's your goal tonight? Because it doesn't feel like a meaningful conversation." Colbert's expression hardened. "My goal is giving my audience the unvarnished truth behind the celebrity facade." "Is it truth you're after," Smith countered, "or conflict for ratings? Those are very different things." The audience stirred, many nodding in agreement with Smith. The momentum was shifting, Colbert's ambush backfiring as Smith held his ground with dignity. "We need to break," Colbert announced abruptly, sensing the tide turning. "We'll be right back with more from Will Smith." As the cameras cut, chaos erupted. Smith stood, removing his microphone and signaling his team. Colbert remained seated, arms crossed, his expression stormy as producers swarmed him. Audience members watched, stunned, as Smith's publicist engaged in a heated exchange with the executive producer. Security moved toward the stage, and the commercial break stretched longer than usual. When the broadcast resumed, the sight shocked viewers. Colbert sat alone, Smith's chair empty. "Will Smith has left the building," Colbert said with forced nonchalance. "Apparently, some people can't handle direct questions." His laugh rang hollow in the tense studio. Unbeknownst to Colbert, a production assistant's microphone had stayed hot during the break's final seconds, capturing his backstage remark, "He plays by my rules or he leaves. I'm not here to salvage his image." The clip would later leak online, fueling outrage. The audience's mood had soured. Where once there was applause, now there were frowns and whispers. Colbert's jokes fell flat, his transitions forced. The vibrant energy of the Late Show had evaporated, replaced by an uncomfortable tension. "We've got a great musical guest coming up," Colbert tried, his enthusiasm strained, but the damage was done. Behind the scenes, Smith spoke calmly with the executive producer in a private office. "I came here in good faith," he said. "I've always respected Stephen as a broadcaster, which makes this all the more disappointing." The producer, visibly distressed, apologized profusely. "This isn't what we discussed." Stephen went off script. "This isn't how we treat guests." Colbert's ambush had been a calculated risk, driven by network pressure to boost sagging ratings. But the gamble backfired spectacularly. As news of the confrontation spread online, social media erupted, with clips of Colbert's hostility going viral. The hashtag #RespectWill trended within hours, fans and celebrities praising Smith's composure. Fellow talk show hosts condemned Colbert's tactics, one noting, "There's a line between tough questions and hostility." That line was crossed. By morning, the incident dominated entertainment news. Colbert's team issued a defensive statement, claiming the interview was mischaracterized and that robust conversation was the show's hallmark. The statement only fueled the backlash. Smith, meanwhile, posted a single message online: "Always lead with respect, even when it's not returned. Grateful for those who see the difference between accountability and antagonism." The post garnered millions of likes, cementing his reputation for grace under fire. The fallout for Colbert was swift. Advertisers voiced concerns, and several high-profile guests postponed appearances. Network executives scrambled to contain the PR crisis, with one senior official lamenting, "This isn't just a bad interview, it's about our platform's credibility." The incident sparked a broader conversation about celebrity interviews and the ethics of chasing viral moments. Thoughtful pieces emerged, dissecting the line between accountability and manufactured conflict. Smith's dignified response became a case study in integrity, while a former Late Show staffer revealed anonymously, that night was the culmination of months of pressure. Unfortunately, Will Smith paid the price. In the end, the confrontation revealed as much about the questioner as the questioned, a stark reminder that respect, not ratings, defines true connection.